and welcome to WoW Time Fun. This is our review of this. Actually, let me just go ahead and clarify real quick. This is not really going to be a playthrough video. This is a review slash talking about the cards in the newest upcoming expansion for Hearthstone Whispers of the Old Gods. There are not all the cards are out right now. Some of them are still to come, but we here are going to talk about the ones that are out. We're going to talk about standard. We kind of skimmed over some of the cards in the last video, but we didn't really get in depth. And then we're going to also kind of compare some of the cards to their alternatives and things of that magnitude. And the first card we're going to start out with is the legendary himself, Cthulhu. His battle cry is deal damage equal to this minion's attack, randomly split among all enemies. So he's not really great at a 10 mana 6/6. Everybody gets him, by the way. He's a free legendary from what I've read. Everybody gets him, so that's pretty cool. So you do get him for free. Think he's not going to be allowed in. He's actually, I don't think, available in arenas. Like, I think the Cthulhu cards aren't actually going to be mixed into arena. Maybe they could. They may change that, but I think I remember reading somewhere in the lump, so don't quote me on that. But 10 mana 6/6 not great, but the good thing is when you play him, he deals his attack randomly split among all enemies. So basically, you play him, you get a weaker version. You get a 6/6 minion and a weaker version of Avenging Wrath. So it's like kind of weighs it out, but there's a plus side. If he gets buffed, which we'll go over later, there are cards that buff him in your deck. That that is a plus. But there's a card already out that we can look at for the Shaman. We'll go to crafting because I do not have it, sadly. And that is the... Where is he at? The Mistcaller. The Mistcaller automatically gives all your cards in the deck +1/+1. So right there you go. If you haven't got Cthulhu yet, actually he just gives all your cards in general. Cthulhu becomes a 7/7 just off the Mistcaller alone. So there's already one card that can benefit from him. So Shaman are kind of at an advantage with the Cthulhu, maybe. I don't know. I think so. I think if I had Cthulhu, I think I'd play Shaman and try the Mistcaller out at least. But the other cards that are going to be beneficiary for him are this guy right here, the Twilight Elder, and we're just going right into him. At the end of your turn, give your stun +1/+1. I'm probably pronouncing the right name wrong. I think it's Cthulhu or something. I played World of Warcraft, but it's been so long since I've done that, and you know how you get. But this guy gives him +1/+1 wherever he is. So if he's still in your deck, he's still getting that +1/+1 at the end of your turn, every turn. See how it doesn't say, it's basically, I think every turn he gives it +1/+1. So the longer this guy stays on the board, the more scary that gets. Because you gotta think, if he stays on the board 3 turns, it's a 9/9 sitting in your deck, and if you draw that 9/9. Bam, that's 9 damage. That is an Avenging Wrath. That right there, I think, validates his 10 mana. The next card, it's a 3/4 for 3. That's not too bad. If you compare it to, let's see here. Let's go to the other 3 mana cost cards. Let's just go to neutral, because he is a neutral card, by the way. Most of these are going to be neutral. So 3 mana for 3/4 for 3. If you look at some of the stat lines, I don't have all of them, so that's a pretty decent, about average stat line for a 3 mana cost player. So he's a pretty solid minion, along with an amazing effect. The only thing I think is, I think the moment somebody sees that pop out into play, you run the risk of them immediately starting to start thinking about how to play around the Cthulhu, or in him just getting silenced or beat. But there's some good and bad to it. I think, like I said, I think he makes a target. And then there is the Beckoner of Evil. Her battle cry, it's a 2 mana cost for 2/3, which is about average for that stat line for that card, and gives him +2/+2. So bam, he's already an 8/8. Even if he's on the board, he becomes an 8/8. So bam, he's an 8/8 right there. And as soon as you play him, bam, 8 damage. And I think Avenging Wrath only does 8 damage. I don't have it either. So I think Avenging Wrath only does 8 damage, so I mean that right there might already be yeah, that right there. That she automatically makes him give Avenging Wrath. So, as you can see, he's going to be, I think, a pretty decent. I think his 10 mana cost is validated right there. Like I said, with the and then like I said, with the shamans having the Mistcaller, that's another 1/1 onto him. So you get this and Mistcaller out, and you still haven't drawn him. He's already still a 3/3. He's already a 9/9 right there. And then if you get the you know. So the next card we're going over is the Eater of Secrets, and this is actually one of my favorites. A 4 for 2/4, which is an I8 stat line, I guess. Probably not the greatest, but his battle cry is destroy all enemy secrets and gain +1/+1 for each. And with as popular as Secret Paladin, Secret Hunter, and, well, not even Secret Hunter, but Secret Paladin, you know what? Just as popular as secrets are in general, because Hunter, Paladin, and Mages are three pretty big common classes that you run into. And all three of them running secrets, and especially Paladin and Mage. As soon as you play this guy, he eats their secrets and gets +1/+1. So if, say, the good old-fashioned Paladin here was to play the Mysterious Stranger and get all 6 of his secrets out, and you're holding this guy in your hand here, well, guess what? He just became an 8/10 for 4. That's pretty good. I mean, that trades out with the Mysterious Stranger. You don't have to worry about running into a Noble Sacrifice, Avenge, Repentance wombo combo, which in Standard you actually won't have to worry about anyways, because Avenge is completely out of Standard, but we'll get to that later. But if you're playing Wild and you happen to have this, because Wild can consist of everything, again, something we'll get to later, you don't have to worry about that at all. So, you eat all the secrets, and you get a 6/10 for 4, or a 8/10 for 4. The good thing about that, there's a plus side. You ate all the secrets, you have an 8/10. Bad side, he gets a turn to answer it. So, it could get BGH'd, it could get Humility'd, Aldor Peacekeeper, Hunter Marked, Explosive Trap. There's a lot. But it could use up something big on that, and then save one of your bigger minions later, such as maybe if you're playing Wild, a Dr. Boom. It's one of those, it's like, it kind of puts them in a bind if it triggers right. However, if you're against one of the 6 classes that don't run secrets, it's kind of just a 2/4. And at that point, it's like, you might want to try to find another way to buff it. Maybe Inner Fire it, Divine Spirit Inner Fire, It just kind of becomes not as great when you are against one of the 6 classes that don't. But the good thing is the 3 classes that do have secrets are very common, very popular. The next card we're going over is Corrupted Hillbite. Corrupted Hillbite is a version of the Antique Hillbite. It is a 5 mana 6/6, which the original Antique Hillbite is a 5 mana 3/3, which is a blah stat line, which is a terrible stat line. But however, its death rattle is restore 8 health to the enemy hero. You could say I would just run a Pit Fighter instead, but I feel there is some use, because a Pit Fighter is a 5 mana 5/6. You lose 1 attack, but you don't restore 8 health to them. This is a zombie chow on steroids. But I do see one benefit with the Priest synergizing with this card with the, and I'm still on 5 mana cost, Soul Priestess. If you can get the Soul Priestess out, and then that dies, if they can't take care of the Soul Priestess, and they kill that first, that's 8 damage to the enemy hero. So, at that point, he's a 14/6, if you hit him in the face and then kill him yourself with a Shadow Word Pain, if you or Death, or whichever one it is that does the 6 health. So there's some synergy there. Other than that, I would honestly say, unless you can silence him, that's about the only way I think I would really use a 5 mana 6/6 that restores 8 health to the enemy hero, is if I was playing the Priest, or if I silenced him. But if I silenced him, I think I would just run Pit Fighter instead. Honestly, um, so that's the only. Maybe I'm missing some uses for him, but I don't know. I think he's one of those that's kind of a card. The next one is the Giant Sandworm, and this card is honestly one of my favorites. It's an 8 mana 8/8 that can. I'm gonna call that a weaker version of Wind Fury. So basically, if it kills a minion, it can attack again. And this, by the way, is considered a beast. So it is Hunter, and it is considered a beast, which is amazing if you really, really think about it. Because, whoop, switched over here. Switched over to one. It's an 8/8 with basically Wind Fury. So if you compare that to the Druids, who have the 8/8 with Taunt, the Ironbark Protector, that's a better card already. The Sandworm is a better card in my opinion. Most people don't run the Ironbark. People run the Ancient Allure over the Ironbark a lot of the time. An 8/8 with Taunt, sure they have to hit it, but the fact that this is a beast and it's a hunter card makes it better, and this is why, in my opinion. Because if you go to hunters, first of all, let me just turn off the crafting and I'll go to straight to hunter here. If you go to hunter, you're already pairing this bad boy up with, not tracking, but Timberwolf, if you want. I mean, call pet's going to make it cost 4. So think about it. If you call pet into this thing, it is a 4 mana 8/8 with a semi version of Wind Fury. Here's where that gets better. Not only does it combo with that, it gives you the 5 damage on kill command. It gives you the 2/1 for Scavenging Hyena. And Houndmaster, it combos with the +2/+2 and Taunt. So it's a 10/10 with Taunt. And again, I'm calling it a weak form of Wind Fury because you kill something, you attack face. Or you kill 2 things, and you can kill it. And then you can give it charge with the Tundra Rhino and the Ram Wrangler also, and King of Beasts. It synergizes with just every card because it is a beast. The fact that it throws that beast onto there makes it so much better, and it's better than King Crush. King Crush is an 8/8 with charge, but that's it. He's charge. In my opinion, the fact that this Sandworm can come out, hit a minion, a lower health minion, kill it, kill another minion, have charge, all this other stuff is just beautiful in my opinion. Now, I think it will see a good bit of play if like Face Hunter slows down. I do believe it will see a good bit of play, honestly, in my opinion, because it is a really, I don't know. I think it's a great valued card. I could be wrong. Maybe once it's out and I've actually played it, who knows? But for right now, I'm thinking that's a pretty good card. The next card that you saw is the Polluted Hoarder. He is a 4 mana 4/2. He is literally just a upgraded version of the he's literally just an upgraded version of the Loot Hoarder. That is all he really is. He is just an upgraded version of, where is that little guy? Right there, Loot Hoarder. That's his lower version. You literally get 2 attack, 2 more mana, 1 more health. Is he really worth it? Maybe. I mean, I guess if you're running a Death Rattle deck, you could justify running him. But I personally don't see a use for him. I think if I went to the 4 mana cost cards, he's a 4/2, so he trades pretty well. He trades decently with some of the other 4 mana cost cards, but the fact that he is 2 mana also makes him very arcane shot. Pretty much takes him out. There's a good bit that takes care of him before he actually gets a chance to really do anything. However, I think he will see a little bit of use just because he does trade decently and he does give you a little more card draw. So if you're running, not too strong on card draw and you feel like running him, then I say go for it. So, he's worth a try. I'd give him a try. And then we move on to our next one. Hogger, Doom of Elowin. He is a 7 mana, 6/6 with his battle cry of whenever this minion takes damage, summon a 2/2 Null with taunt. So, first off, let's go ahead and compare him to his other counterpart. His less evil counterpart, Hogger. Hogger is at the end of your turn summon a 2/2 Null with taunt. He's a 6 mana 4/4. So, right off the bat, he's 1 mana more, but you're getting +2/+2. The only problem is instead of giving you a taunt at the end of your turn, he does have to take damage. So basically, if he gets Shadow Word Death, he doesn't get a benefit. Whereas Hogger is actually safe from the Shadow Word because he is a 4/4. He is weaker, but it does keep him out of the range of that spell. If he gets either way, if he gets something that kills him instantly, like a Fireball or something that does the 6 damage automatically, he will only get you 1 taunt. Same with the Hogger, though. Hogger will only get you 1 taunt if he dies the next turn. However, Hogger getting you the taunt at the end of your turn kind of makes it a little bit of a better one, in my opinion, just because of the fact if they have one minion on the board, it's going to block at least that one, hopefully at least block that one minion. With this one, you can't even really buff him too much, in my opinion, because if you do get him over 7 health, or right at 7 attack, he's immediately a target for BGH, and if you play that card and you try to buff him, anybody running a BGH is going to take it out, because that is, then he doesn't even get the passive effect. At least with Hogger, you buff him a little bit, if he does get BGH, you're still getting a taunt out of it. But you are getting +2 stats. You're getting +2/+2. So you are getting a stronger minion for 7. But the fact that he has to take damage to get the taunt, you're only going to be able to, if you keep him at 6/6, and people keep attacking him, which I doubt anybody will keep attacking him unless you give him taunt, you're getting 3 2/2s out of it. So you're getting you could say you're getting 12/12 for 7, but that's very debatable. Whereas Hogger, you're getting a guaranteed 6/6 for 6. If that makes sense. You could get a maybe for Hogger, and then even if you only get 1, though, you still are getting an 8/8 for 7, which I guess is good because it's 1 mana less than the Iron Bark and it's 1 mana less than the Worm, and so you could say it's a beneficial card. It's really up to debate. So, it's one of those things you probably need to try him. All in all, I would give him like a decent rating. I wouldn't give him the best because, like I said, if you upgrade him one attack more, BGH is going to take him out. He's already in range for the Shadow Words, and he has to be attacked. So he basically, for him to be beneficiary, you have to let him die just to get a 2/2 for taunt. Just to get a 2/2 taunt, I think I'd go with regular Hogger because you automatically get a 2 for taunt. So, I don't know. It's one of those things. He would be. I feel like he's very situational. So, we'll see though. Like I said, he's not out. We haven't played him, but we will see. And then I believe the new card back. I don't know where the image is. It's gonna be like that, but the little eye moves. So that's pretty cool. It's gonna be the new card back. Now, on to some of the new updates. Now I've got Hearthstone pulled up here. We'll go ahead and go back. As we talked about in the last video, you have 9 new slots for decks. And in the last video, I played a form of standard paladin, and we're going to go a little more in depth into standard. I showed in the last video how my paladin deck at the moment currently loses about 15 cards after it switches over to standard. This will probably be my wild deck, because once standard comes over, I think it was about 15 of these cards cannot be played. And by that I mean anything in the Naxxramas, Goblins vs. Gnome, will not be playable in standard. Standard is only going to be the newest within like a 2-year span. So Blackrock Mountain, Grand Tournament, League of Explorers, of course the basics and the classics. So what does that mean though for wild? So wild, of course, are going to consist of deck like the mid-range paladin here, the standard paladin deck that you can honestly really find just about anywhere. I think one of the few things I run in here that a lot of paladin don't is Eldrick the Pure. He doesn't have a great rating, but I like his effect, and he's just kind of a cool card to me, so I do run him. But I don't think he gets run a lot, but that's about the only thing different. This is pretty much a cookie cutter deck is what we'd call it, a cookie cutter build. Then you have your Zoo Warlocks, which I'm not sure exactly how much Zoo Warlock is going to change. This is a version. There are so many versions of Zoo Warlock though, in Handlock, and just that all kind of merge into like a similar blob of Warlock decks that are all really similar but really different. Like it could be 1 or 2 minions that are just different. And let's just go ahead and see. So we're going to go ahead and go to basic. So we'll start out with Naxxramas. We already know that with Naxxramas we got Void Callers, so I know the Nerubian Egg will be gone. There'll be no Nerubian Eggs. The Shredder's gone, because this is all Naxxramas cards, so there will be no Void Callers. Void Caller also hurts not only Zoolocks and things like that, because Void Callers allow you to play Doom cards for free, Mal'Ganis for free, Flame Imps for free, which sounds kind of weird, but if you're lower on health, you don't want to take 3 damage to the face. It's pretty good to get one of those out for free. So that's not only going to hurt, in my opinion, the Zoolocks and Handlocks and things like that, but I think it's also going to hurt people who run demon decks, because you don't have a really strong card to get a demon out with. I mean, a 4 mana cost Mal'Ganis is pretty sweet, so you don't have that anymore. Loatheb is out. I think I want to say that's all, but let me check Goblins vs. Gnome real quick. Dark Bomb is out. Mal'Ganis? Is Mal'Ganis really? Mal'Ganis is out of standard, or out of the standard. Wow. So Mal'Ganis is out. Implosion is gone. Yo, wow, I didn't even actually know about that. You don't have Floating Watcher anymore. You lose any other cards that my deck in particular loses. Pilot of Treader, I talked about that one. I think that's the last one. And of course, Dr. Boom, I know a lot of them run Dr. Boom, and a lot of them run INT Killbot, which you don't allow anymore. So, 10 of the cards that I was running, I believe that's all, 10 of them, yeah. 10 of the cards I was running are gone from standard. So you could, of course, change that, because you can go... Now, does this deck stop being good? No, because then you can just go to Grand Tournament, and you can replace it with things like... Boom, Ardent Horse Rider. They have things that will replace, if you want a good in-game... Not you, Sky Captain, nor Sea Kraken. They have ways to replace it. Yeah, not Wrathguard. Well, Wrathguard. If you want to throw in 1 Wrathguard, I think would be enough, honestly. You have ways of replacing, and Kazakhstan Jouster replaces Zombie Chow to an extent as a 2/3 possibly. So there are ways, but you lose a lot of key cards in that. And this video is going to be talking about some of the cards, but in Wild, all of them are allowed still. So we're just going to press done for now. So it's a real drastic change. If you're a hunter, this is a pretty kind of standard, again, face hunter kind of thing. Let's go goblins versus gnomes. So right away I lose, which I don't run Cobra Shot, sometimes I do. Glaive-Zuka's gone. Alright. Alright. Do I run any minions from this? I don't think I do. But, yeah. That's gone. Gone. Haunted Creeper's gone. So, right there, you're already down. Not as many, but there are still some pretty decent ones gone. Call Pet, you lose. If you run a Beast Hunter deck, you no longer get Call Pet in Standard, which I guess is a in Web Spinner. You don't get Web Spinner, which is a very big card in some decks. You don't get it. No more in Standard. But that's just the way it is. Well, I did not mean to do that, but oh well. But like I said, there's always replacement cards. Now, Fatigue Rogue, which I think is what this deck is. No, this is a pirate deck. Fatigue Rogue, which is kind of a popular rogue deck, will lose things like the Ambusher, which, oops, and they lose the Dancing Swords and the Death Lord and the Loathebs, which are kind of some big cards that they would be losing for that deck, because they can no longer allow you to draw a deck. They can't return a friend that many, but they don't lose too much. But the Death... Get out of there, Haunted Creeper. The Death Lord is one of their decks that kind of keeps them from taking damage, but they do lose the anti-kill bot, which Fatigue Rogue does rely a good bit on, due to the fact that they also kind of run out of health sometimes. So they do lose that. And what else do they lose? Yep, you lose Goblin Autobot, you lose Sharp Sword Oil, and you lose Iron Sensei for like mech decks. You lose a lot. I mean, people don't realize, like, well, people realize it, but it's weird to see all these like cards that are just so grind in decks, and how much it changes decks, taking them away, like taking them out. I mean, like I said, especially for mid-range paladin, who loses 15 cards. I mean, it's crazy. So it's weird to see how much it's really going to change when they switch over to the wild. And one of my fears is that wild is going to, I think, get stagnant, because if you're a new player, I discussed this deck alone right here. There's an app I have that tells me the dust cost to craft every card in this deck, and it's 7,920 dust. And I don't know if it's updated to where it includes the fact that you can craft Loatheb now. Like, all of these Naxxramas cards you can now craft. So Loatheb and Sludge Belcher you can craft. I think that's the only other. Zombie Chow you can craft. And here's the thing: dust, you can get a good bit of dust, but 7,000 takes a lot of grounding. So if you want to build like one of the carbon copy cutting decks, cookie cutter decks for a wild, like a mid-range paladin, or the Zoo Warlock, Handlock, and the Face Hunter, you're going to be looking at like around 7,000 dust just to craft it, which, some of them you'll get, of course, in Standard, and you'll get in packs and things like that. But you can't get the Goblins versus Gnome for long. They're limited. It even says leaving the shop soon. You can still buy the adventures, Naxxramas, but it's leaving the shop soon. So if you come in after this and you go to Wild, and the first deck you play against is somebody who's packing the Dr. Booms and all this stuff, and they're set in these old decks, I feel like it's going to be really overwhelming. So you'll move to Standard, which I think Standard would probably be easier for newer players anyways. But at the same time, I think that's going to make Wild go stagnant because a lot of the new players aren't going to take the time to craft the older cards like Doctor Boom and all that because they can't play them in Standard. And if they didn't have fun playing Wild, they're not going to, I don't think they'll go out of their way to craft the older cards as fast. So I think there'll be a select group just kind of stay in Wild and just I don't know. I believe if I read right, they're doing bonus rewards for like separate reward things. Like right now, you can click here, but it doesn't. But I think they're gonna have like two different rank ladders, one for Wild and one for Standard. But I don't know if they're doing two separate loots. Like at the end of at the end of the month, you get a chest and all that yada yada. But I don't know if they're going to do it to where you get two chests at the end of the thing. So it's just one of those things that you got to wait and see. The reason tabletop games I feel have an easier time going towards the standard playthrough in like Legacy for Magic the Gathering is you can still get the physical cards. Like you can go out and you can buy physical copies of the cards. You can no longer buy the packs. You have to craft all the cards in Goblin vs. Gnome. Like, you cannot get, once that's gone, you cannot get the packs. And if you're a new player, that's a lot of cards. That's that's Dr. Boom, that's Pilot Shredder, that's Sneed's Old Shredder, that's Trogzor, that's, there's a lot of cards that are pretty good that are really good in Goblins vs. Gnome that you can't buy anymore. And I feel like players that are new aren't going to take the time to grind up the dust to get those cards that are like 1600 for one card. I mean, one legendary 1600, and then you got to come up with 50 more for a common. I think a common card is like 50 dust. 40. So right there, just to get one Shredder and Dr. Boom, you need 1640 right there, dust. Just to give you a reference on how like annoying that can be, the Prophet Velen is he out too? Nope. Okay, good. Prophet Velen, any legendary, if you right click, is 400 dust. Just to get one legendary, you have to disenchant 4. 4 legendaries. Okay, that's kind of a... Okay, let's show only golden cards. To craft a golden is 1600. Okay, sorry. You could either disenchant 4 regular legendaries or 1 golden to get 1. Think about that. That's 4 legendaries just to get 1 key legendary like Dr. Boom or someone. And then that's kind of like a big stress on people who are just not playing the game and are like, why would I go to Wild when all these cards are unattainable except through crafting through dust, which takes a good bit to gather, especially if you're just starting out. So I don't really think that, in my opinion, I think Blizzard should keep the decks. Like, I think they should allow you to keep buying the decks. Craft the adventures, sure, but I think you should still be able to buy the packs. Because I don't think... I mean, that would I would hate to come in and have to craft every Goblins versus Gnome card. Like, I would hate to have to craft it. I think it would get really annoying really quick. And I just wouldn't do it. I honestly wouldn't. I'd play Standard where I don't even have to worry about running into it. Because you gotta think, if you don't have them, you play Standard. You don't worry about running into them. You don't worry about seeing them. You never even know what you miss. You don't know like how good Dr. Boom is, or you might if you try to play Wild and you see how overpowered, or not overpowered, but how good Dr. Boom is, or how good Piloted Shredder is, or how good all these other cards are. You just think, you know what? I don't have access to those. I don't have the dust. I don't want to put up with it. I'll just go play Standard. Stay in Wild with that. So I feel like Standard's going to get a lot of the new players, whereas Wild is going to get a lot more of the people who've been around for a while and have these set decks that they play. Like I keep going back to this, like because this is a big deck that is common, and it's just that's my opinions on it. I'm not saying standard's bad, but I'm saying it's going to be a little harder for an online game because you can't access the cards as easy as you can a physical card game where I could go down to like my local comic shop and just be like, give me this, and this, and now I can play Legacy. So that's just my opinion on it. Like I said, tell us what you think. And like I said, this was no gameplay, just kind of really just a run through of standard and wild and the changes it's going to bring, the effects I feel like it's going to have on the game overall, and last point, it's going to get harder and harder. I feel for Wild to keep up because people are going to buy the new expansions, but as the older ones stop dropping off, I think people are going to get less and less in tune because if they do like Nexramus drops off, so there's like to craft there's God, how many legendaries are there in Nexramus? Let's search here. I can't remember exactly. Nexramus. Two, four, six. There's 6 legendaries in Nexramus alone, so that's oh lord. So there's 6 legendaries in Nexramus alone. That's 9,600 elixir dust just to craft all the legendaries in Nexramus, which you only need really you don't only need one Loatheb. Kel'Thuzad plays a pretty good role. Menax is actually really good. Can kill anything. But let's go to Blackrock Mountain. Blackrock Mountain eventually including craftable cards. Okay, it has 5. It has 5 legendaries. So eventually, now that they're dropping off Nexramus, that eventually they will drop off, and you have to drop about another 8,000 dust just to get those legendaries when it eventually drops off. And then with the Grand Tournament, I mean, League of Explorers, if the League of Explorers drop off, it's 2 years, but you got to think of how long this game is going to go on. There's another 8,000 dust, and eventually, if the cards keep going on and on, then eventually this will, you won't be able to buy these packs here, and that's, God, look how many legendaries that is that you would have to craft. So I feel like as the game gets bigger and goes on, that Wild is just gonna stagnate, and Standard is just gonna Standard will keep growing, of course, but I think Wild will kind of just stagnate out and won't technically grow until the next expansion drop off. Because if you join after you can get Nexramus and Goblins vs. Gnome, you still have Blackrock, Grand Tournament, So if you join after these 2 drop off, you still have League of Explorers, Grand Tournament, Blackrock, and Whispers of the Old God that you can choose from, card-wise, things like that. Let's say 2 years go by, Blackrock and Grand Tournament come out, fall off. So there's going to be more people join Wild because they'll have the Blackrock in the Grand Tournament. So then Wild will grow. So I feel like Wild will grow, but only every 2, like when the new standard starts. Then Wild will see like an increase. Then it'll kind of go back down. Then it'll increase just because the people who start after those expansion falls off have cards that they can play in Wild and things like that, and have cards that will only be available in Wild and will want to play. So I feel like for about a couple of months, Wild will go crazy. It'll be fun. It'll stagnate out. When the new stuff drops off, when like Grand Tournament and Blackrock Mountain drops off, Wild will pick back up for a bit, and it'll stagnate. So I think Wild is going to have its ups and downs, where I think Standard is going to have a continuous growth, just because every new player that joins is going to be able to do Standard right off the bat, whereas Wild is just keeping the old people playing, like the older players playing, by saying, if you want to use these nice cards you got for Grand Tournament, or these nice cards you got in Nexramus, guess what? You have to play Wild. So that's kind of where I stand on it. Like I said, I'm okay with Standard and Wild, but it does, I feel, put a stress on newer players And I think Wild, like I said, I do think Wild will stagnate, grow, which is a good thing because, if you don't play Wild all the time and then, or you've never played Wild and then your set drops off and you're like, well, now I can play Wild because the cards I have are only available in Wild. It'll be like a new experience for you when if you join after Goblins and Naxxramas drop off and you can only get these three, and then these two drop off, you play against people you've never played against with these Goblins and Gnomes. It's like a new experience. You experience new cards. You're like, whoa, this is what I missed out with Goblins and Gnomes. I'm going to go craft these cards for my Wild decks. Then there's that being said, where when these two drop off and falls back, it'll basically be like a revamp of all the original decks fighting it out again, and then the cards that are using these are just going to kind of be the same battles back and forth of Zoo Warlocks, mid-range Secret Paladins, things of that magnitude. So it's all like a big circle. So I don't know. That's where we stand on it. Tell us how you feel down in the comments. And as always, thanks for tuning in. And we will see you next time here at Wild Time Fun.